Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce a dose of Buckley.
Cap.
Where the fuck did you come from?
Been here the whole time.
Baby's first existential crisis.
Plenty of people make songs about emotions that are normal as a form of expression. It's not about being some new discovery that it exists. It's about expressing those feelings.
And yet you're judging her for using an artistic expression to cope with it, while also judging the less healthy alternative that the song is actually about.
She was so irresistible. This girl.
That's gonna get real problematic later.
Why DJs who make songs for people to dance to might not have put out any music during a global pandemic when a lot of clubs were shut down. I don't know.
You would think that anyone else, would have chosen to stop releasing music during this time frame after the announcement of shutdowns, if that was the case. But that's not what happened at all. Fuck you.
Number 3 in the Cardi B award for most vulgar song goes to Cupcake. H2Ho.
Guess what got more drip than anything a bitch put on?
Oh good, another song that didn't chart fantastic. Why is this here?
Dale, it's way worse than that. Hey, remember when I said that you sucked and can still be a successful YouTuber? Yeah, I don't need to cover this section at all. I only picked the comments that most directly address this, but yeah, Cupcake was actually before Cardi B, if only by a year or two, and Cardi B wasn't making hyper raunchy rap when Cupcake started doing it. So the premise of this entire segment is just kind of broken from the outset. I shouldn't give this one the dignity. This has nothing to do with demonetization either, nor does it have to do with me having nothing to say, because I really have a lot to say. Which is why I'm actually going to address it.
Yeah, if you've got a drip, that's an issue you should see someone about. That's probably gonorrhea.
Look, good joke. I fucking love it, actually. It's the funniest thing that you've said in this entire video.
Oh come on, I'm sure you of all people could nitpick this if I can see it.
What are you... Oh, fuck, we're doing articles again. God damn it. Yeah, she didn't say a drip. She said her pussy has drip, referring to the qualitative merit of being wet. You can spin that to make it about gonorrhea for the joke, sure, but that doesn't mean you're factually accurate.
Which, well, you've admitted in this video that a lot of your audience are people who don't know popular music. So misrepresenting what the lyrics are actually about for a joke is a little more out of line when you admit you're catering to an audience that's more likely to take what you're saying about those lyrics at face value.
Technically, that's final thoughts talk, but whatever. The actual problems with what you're saying, I'd have to reopen my Patreon for.
Poppin' and I'm poppin' this twat, fuck a two-head twist, I got the dick on lock.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say the word twat in a song. You know I always reward points for originality.
You know, which is why this song is on your worst list? Because it does something that's positive in your eyes? And this is going to bite you in the ass later.
Or, you know, now, we already pointed out how the whole premise is just Cardi B did it first, so having lyrics you call creative undermines the point entirely, even without the fact that Cupcake came first, metaphorically and literally being factored in.
Also, please don't two-hand twist dudes' dicks, giving them the old schoolyard rug burn. No one wants that.
Oh my god, she says, fuck a two-hand twist. As in she doesn't want to do one. Dumbass.
Which is an actual sex move, by the way. It's a full-ass category on porn. Well, it's not the full-ass category. It's a different category. You get what I mean. Someone clearly wants that!
Throat full of little babies, wait, bruh. Shout out to Jada, wait,
Throat full of little babies. That conjures a fucking image.
Oh wow, dude, you're totally not a prude but can't handle a line about guzzling cum. Get fucked! And I mean that literally. You're clearly not getting any.
You could have pointed out how she had to use wait bra as a way to force the rhyme, and not very well at that, as an actual criticism, but no. All about the sexual connotation of the lines instead of doing what a music critic should actually do and talk about how the song does what it intends and how the song does so poorly. You actually had something you could say negative about the song and you didn't.
The shout out to Jada Wada is a pun. That's rapper Lil Baby's baby mama. Does she got little babies in her throat?
You can recognize the fact that it's a pun on Lil Baby's baby mama, but you don't realize that Little Babies is part of the pun.
See, when they're as funny as the gonorrhea joke, at least I can give you credit. This was just cringier than, well, my entire existence.
But you know the worst part of this song? That flute, recorder, what is that? It's a really annoying element that takes away from any enjoyment I might get out of the song.
One person's annoyance is another person's symphony, my guy.
Allow the real musician to give some insight here.
You're a DJ!
Shut your face! So, the context is very important to whether something is or is not annoying, which is why this element wouldn't be out of place at all in a song recorded in the 16th century, and it's more likely that everything else would be completely ridiculous. Well, except the sex talk. Mozart was making tons of songs about literal shit. Anyway, the thing about music is that it often includes elements at several different octaves, because it creates more full sound. That's why the songs have bass for low register and percussive elements to accentuate and control the way that the ear processes the bass. But that's what the high notes are doing, which is what I presume you mean by the recorder, because the lower version is probably an oboe, and there's no way you'd be confusing the mallet hits for a woodwind. So, those higher recorder sounding notes are typically come during the verse when she picks up her own vocal energy and cadence in order to heighten the energy further at those points, then cooling down after 8 bars for the second half of the verse while her cadence continues its speed to maintain that higher energy level to prepare for a come down to normalcy in the chorus. Then the recorder is also used at the ending to build to a final crescendo and release all the tension from the song at the ending. Orgasm joke. You could argue that it could be done with a different instrument, I'm sure, but that's your annoying element. There's moaning ad-libs all over the song, and you're annoyed by a woodwind. It also serves to help identify the song easier for the listener, and to me, it sounds pretty good. And to illustrate the point, I've actually been using a recorder synth for the background music playing right now just to show you how the instrument isn't annoying, and you're really just looking for things to not like.
But overall, I think it's just gratuitous for the sake of being gratuitous. It's not particularly clever, and there's no message here. It's just trying to say as many vulgar things as I can in 3 minutes to make 16-year-olds laugh.
Nothing clever, even though you gave it points for creativity earlier.
And a little baby reference that you felt the need to explain. Mr. Crocker's hands in a sexual context. Anyway, there's like 2 sentences left of this segment, and it's pretty much the Cardi B comparison, so we're done here.
Number 2 is a 2-way tie, but they both get the Rick Ross Award for Fakest Rapper because they're both Drake, and 2 of his songs, Rich Flex and Privileged Rappers.
Normally, this is the point in the commentary where someone would be like, you can't do that! He's a top 11 now! My dad works at Sony! But honestly, given the way you structure these, I get it. Especially since this entry is about the artist more so than about the song. That being said, this is gonna be another one of those, points where I start defending a position I don't necessarily agree with. So bear with me.
I have a question for literally every other rapper on the planet. Why do you let Drake get away with this horse shit?
Asking Pusha T that too, huh?
Is it because he's so popular that every time he releases an album, every single song ends up in the top 20? Is that it? So you want to be nice to him so that he might feature you so that you can grab some of those sloppy seconds from his Spotify pennies?
Yes.
That is the exact reason.
Because otherwise, why do you let him pretend he's such a hard fucking gangsta when he's an actor from Canada who has a career as a rapper because Lil Wayne was high on cough syrup and said, yeah, you could be in Young Money.
That's a valid way to interpret it, although he did have to take specific measures to get Lil Wayne's attention, doing a remix of Man of the Year and retaining Lil Wayne's verse from the original for one, which got someone's attention who sent it to Lil Wayne. Like, if you want to make that argument, I can argue that Eminem had a career because Dr. Dre got high and said, damn, this white kid from Detroit really sounds black.
Like, I get it. A lot of rappers are full of shit. But they came up in rough neighborhoods and they can rap about what they saw happen to their friends or family or whatever. Drake grew up in a country that has an average of 145 gun homicides a year. A year! And he's talking about being on that slaughter gang shit and chrome on chrome. Get, and I can't stress this enough, the fuck out of here.
Well, in Drake's early music, he wasn't talking about slaughter gang shit or chrome on chrome. Most of his early music was about having money and getting women, which, well, makes sense for an actor. And Drake didn't grow up rich either. Lil Dicky is also a middle-class rapper. The Weeknd is from Canada and makes a lot of music about cocaine. Snow is Canadian and makes a song about stabbing an informant.
Yeah, something you may not understand about street violence, guns aren't necessarily the weapon you're using, even if it's the weapon you're carrying. And I really want to know where you're getting your homicide stats for Canada from. Because I have a much more accurate and recent source that says in 2021, Canada reported 788 homicides, with 40% of those being firearms related, resulting in about 315 firearms deaths. And that doesn't take into consideration non-fatal injuries from guns. Of course, Canada also has much tighter gun control laws than the US, and also has about a tenth of the population of the US in about the same amount of area. So lower population density and more accountability might have a lot more to do with those lower numbers than a lack of violence in the first place, especially when you consider that a lot of the increase in homicide from 2020 to 2021 comes from Ontario. And isn't it just so funny how an increase in homicide in his home makes Drake more comfortable over time making songs that involve guns?
Why do you know so much about
Superhero. Part of my job. Duh.
So then he has the balls to release a song called Privileged Rappers, and it's not about how easy he had it. In fact, he says this.
I hate a privileged rapper who don't even know what it takes.
The fuck are you talking about? You're a privileged rapper, Aubrey.
And isn't it funny that you play an incredibly contextless line and not the line repeated during the chorus that actually explains what he means by privileged rapper?
I hate a privileged rapper that ain't had a hit since he signed us, y'all.
That's weird. It's almost like he's talking about someone privileged in terms of not putting in the work to make their music appeal to a wider audience.
Which would happen to include
Too much respect. I used to hand out CDs before they would buy it.
giving away your music just so people will give you a fucking chance.
Which kind of goes into the rest of this entry.
But Buckley, he started from the bottom. Didn't you see that post from his first show? Yeah, this made the rounds on social media in October of this year. He got paid $100 as the opener for a show in Toronto. You know who he opened for? Fucking Ice Cube. Tell me who the fuck in their very first show gets to be the opening act for a fucking legend. How does that happen without connections, without privilege?
Well, when you've already gotten into the entertainment industry on the merits of your own work and had already been working for 6 fucking years to make a name for yourself before you even get that opportunity, yeah, I'd say that's not privilege, guy.
This is like saying Ice Cube is privileged because Dre thought his raps were good. That's not how any of this works. Forming connections is part of the work that goes into it.
Drake has so little self-awareness, he couldn't tell you where his own asshole is right now. Hey, maybe next year, Mr. Graham, you can write a song about how you hate Canadian rappers who had a friend whose dad was an acting agent, which led them to doing 100 episodes of TV, then had 2 uncles in the music industry and was able to, somehow, open for Ice Cube, and then, almost immediately after that, tour with the most popular rapper of the mid to late 2000s.
Alright, so aside from a lot of this just being having connections is bad, which is kind of just how the mainstream music industry works in general. So I don't know how you can sleep at night calling Drake fake for this reason. And there's really no evidence to suggest that Drake had any contact with his uncles prior to becoming famous. And even if it were true, real talk, when it comes to the path through the music industry he was taking, it makes 0 sense to think they had any involvement in it.
I'm not going to pretend that either myself or Boon like Drake or think his music is credible. There's plenty of reasons other than him being on Degrassi or being Canadian in general that make a lot more sense for that though. Including the fact that the beat switch on Rick's Flex is the worst case of whiplash I've heard in just about any song. And that's the thing, right? There's valid criticisms to be had and ones you can get a lot of entertainment out of. The problem here, though, is Buckley, like a lot of music reviewers on YouTube, doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Todd in the Shadows has more credibility in what he's talking about, and Todd actually admits he doesn't know what he's talking about half the time, which is honestly part of the reason he's more credible.
Pretty much hit the nail on the fucking head with that one. Legit, I already didn't like your shit very much, and I was like, maybe if I watch this list, he'll have improved. No, No, not in the least. If anything, he's just spiraling further down in quality because his viewer base is getting giggles out of this shit without the remotest amount of awareness that it's not even close to the type of content they should expect from him. It's not harmful, at least not for the most part, although I'd argue that saying social change is pointless is, but it's damn sure not good. There are times where someone may ask why I should care about what I'm covering or bother saying these things. This is why. Because if I don't at least try to promote quality content and call out what I think doesn't meet the mark, then what happens is that the bad gets worse and the good goes away. And that's more or less why Buckley would want to make his content as well. Or at least I'd hope so. So maybe he'd see this video and say, hey, maybe there's some things I could address. Because I've seen some big names actually do something to at least acknowledge what I've had to say about them in the past. Knowing his stubborn ass though, I doubt it. Although, maybe he should. Glancing from his own comment section, not going to show those here, I did notice that some of his fans seem aware of his decline, and yet they are so quick to blame the algorithm. Do any of you think maybe it's not the algorithm that's the cause here? Look, even content I don't like is something I feel should be on the channel. But do you think it's possible that others just plain got tired of what he had to say and you didn't? Which is perfectly fine. I pointed out earlier how YouTube is something that people can think you suck at, but you can still be successful doing. But just like I wouldn't want my audience going over to Buckley's channel to start talking trash, I also don't want any of you that have come over here just calling me a jealous hater or whatever else I'm sure you can come up with, simply because of the fact that I've made a video outlining where I saw flaws in Buckley's reasoning and stance. So my advice stands for my fans, for Buckley's fans, and for Buckley himself. And it's something I've said quite a bit in the past. Do not treat what anyone has to say, including yourself and myself, in Buckley's case, as the only opinion that matters. My fans shouldn't treat my word as the word of God. Buckley's fans shouldn't treat his word as the word of God. Neither myself nor Buckley should treat our own word as the word of God, except what our own opinion is. We're not sheep and we're not blind. Look at the world around you when making your own decisions.
Okay, so I was wondering, how did you get here again?